Kumalema Blat Gemara, we're Masechta Menachos, we're up to Daf Ches. Just quickly to recap, actually we're up to Daf Zayin. Just quickly recap what's going on here. So far, the missions we learned are mirror images of the first Mishnayos in Masechta Zvachim as well. So whatever that applies to an animal applies now to a mincha. So this Mishnah says that all those that were disqualified to bring a carbon, for example, an oinen, somebody who lost a member of the family, the seven close members, somebody who is tamei or tvul yom has to go to mikveh on the chusek kippurim, or still has to wait to bring kabbalah the following morning, like a zav and a zava, or if someone has to is bechusa begadim, missing clothes, all of these psulim by a carbon apply also to a mincha. Also a Yisrael. Now here's one difference between a mincha and a carbon. By a carbon, could we say the four activities by a mincha corresponds to the four activities of an animal? So for example, kmitza is tantamount to shchita of an animal, right? Kmitza, taking away the three fingers, scooping it, that's like shchita. And then you put it into a klei sharis, that's like kabbalah of the blood, receiving the blood. Then you transport that to the mizbeach, that's hoilacha, the same. And then placing the kmitza on the mizbeach itself, that is similar to the zrika of and then the shirayim is what's now you enable the shirayim. But the difference in the first stage, which is kmitza, by shchita is kosher by Yisrael. Kmitza is not kosher by Yisrael. With a Yisrael, it has to be done by a kohen. Otherwise, in other respects, it's the same. So the Mishnah says the same thing about mincha. If you did, you use and same if you use a left hand. All of these things we learned from in the Gemara Zvachim. We went through in the Gimel went through every single one of those dinim, what the basis for that. So the same thing applies to mincha. But Ben Seder argues by the left hand. He says the left hand, just put it back. You took the left hand, just put it back side again. In other words. And the way we understood the Chacham,
you can't do shchita.
Yes, that's true. It's not irreversible, but kmitza is reversible. Just put it back, start again, recalibrate. And we had a machlekes ben Seder Chachamim. So ben Seder, I just quickly give you the shortcut version. Ben Seder says, if you use your left hand, you didn't do anything. If you do kmitza wrong, nothing happened. Nothing happened. So just put it back. Ma'ashen Kain, the Chachamim say no. When you do the for your soul of the kmitza, that in itself is an avodah, and you ruined it. You disqualified it. Comes along Rav and says, the way the Gemara concluded, Rav says that the process is you do kmitza, and then you put it into a second vessel, and then you take that second vessel and you walk to the mizbech and you place the kmitza onto the mizbech. So Rav says, when does Ben Seder say you can reverse it? If all you did was you did the kmitza. But the moment you put it into the second vessel, that's the Gemara, Rav Nachman explains, that means it's the Gemara Vayda. You finish the kmitza, and now if you did it in the wrong way, if you sold it, for example, that's it. It's possible. You did it with the left hand. That's it. You ruined it. When is it reversible? You didn't complete the avodah. You started the kmitza. That's the beginning of avodah, but you didn't complete it. That's what Rav Nachman said, and that's what we understood. Rav comes along the Gemara and asks a question, and that's what we're going to deal with. We started dealing with it yesterday. We're continuing today, and the question is very simple. So what do you do with the kmitza? You say reverse it. What do you do with it? You put it back in the original kli. What was the original kli? A kli sharis. What happens? You bring flour from your home, you put it into a kli sharis in the base of Migdash. And we had a machlekes Gemara yesterday whether the keli itself already consecrates it or it's only after the kmitza that it becomes consecrated. But regardless, you put it in this kli sharis, then you do the kmitza, and then you put it in the same kli sharis. And you tell me, no. Once you put it in the same kli sharis, that's the avodah kmitza, and if it was done with the left hand, done by Yisrael, you completely ruined it. So you can reverse it only before you put it in the second klei sharis. So the Gemara asks a simple question. So when you put it back in the first klei sharis, it's the same problem. You consecrated a kmitza which is done with the left hand, or done by Yisrael, or done by any of the other ones. So the first answer Gemara is, when does your klei sharis mekadosh? Only if you had intent. So for example, when you're putting the kmitza in the second keli, why are you putting it there? Because you want to continue. So you want it to be kmitza. But when you're putting it back in the first, what's your idea? Not that you want to unravel, you want to undo the kmitza. That's what you're doing. You're reversing the process. So that's loy medas. So Rabbi Yochanan says if you put in a klei sharis without any intention, it does not become holy. That's the first answer the Gemara gives. So now we're up to the second answer the Gemara gives, which is Rav Amram Amar. Rav Amram says, even if your intention was, even if you don't need intention, if you put it back in the first keli, it's not an issue. The problem is the second keli. Why the first keli is not an issue? It's talking about you bring it back to the first keli, but if you bring it back, you heap it on top. If you heap it on top, a klei sharis is only mekadosh what's inside the environs of the keli, not what's heaped on top of it. So if you put it in the second keli, it's an empty keli. You put it in, okay, it becomes kodesh. If you put it back in the first, it's full already. You heap it on top. I don't understand. Where do you think the kmitza came from in the first place? From the first keli. That means you made a hole. You scooped it out. So there's there's a gap there. There's a hole there. So just put it right back in that hole. What do you mean it's heaped on top? I don't understand. Where did the extra flour come from? Says the Gemara here. Rab Amram Omar with 5. Oh, you found the Gemara. Okay. Rab Amram says, keep going. So this is what we're talking about. So the question here is, just quickly, Rav said that that B'Mseida says that if you did something wrong with the kimitza, you can just recalibrate, just put it back and start over again, is only if you did the first step of kimitza, because there are 2 steps. You do kimitza and then you put it into a second kli. So Rav says, as long as all you did was the kimitza, just put it back. The left hand, Yisrael, Anoinen, put it back and start again. No problem. Chacham is saying no, it's an avoid apostle and you can't do that. But the Rav said Ben Seder holds it's not really an avoid until you put it in the second keli. And if you didn't put it in the second keli, you can just put it back. So the Gemara's question is, but putting it back doesn't help. The first keli is a clay shardis. As soon as you put it back, you finish your kmitza. So it ruins it. So the first answer Gemara is, you put it back, you had no intention that it should be a kmitza. Why are you putting it back? Because you don't want it to be a kmitza. You want to start again. So therefore it's not mekadosh. Come along, Rabban says, no, I don't care if you need das or you don't need das, because it's actually a machlekes. And in fact, between later on, Tesher explains how this is different, whatever, it's a machlekes. So therefore, you know what? I don't care if you had das or not das. Talking about here, when you put it back, it's on top of the keli. You heap it on top. So it doesn't become kodesh.
It off the first time. It was probably also heaped on top.
No, then it wouldn't be kodesh. You still, when you put it in clay shardis to start the mincha, it has to be level. It has to be level. So the chayda, the Gemara's going to ask in a minute, but you're quite. You fill, you put it back on. You put it back. It's sitting on top. It's not kodesh. So the Gemara make comments. I don't know who's on here. And the first time when you made the kimitza, it couldn't have been heaped on top, then it wouldn't have been part of the mincha. So it had to be level. So when you scooped out the mincha, you made a vacuum. You made a little hole over here, a cavity. So you put it back into that cavity. What do you tell me, Maisa, when you put it back, suddenly it's on top? Interesting, with Gemara and Baruch we had right in the beginning about when they asked over the Melech what they should do about how you have parnasa. And the Gemara says over there, that even though you took it from there, but you can never put it completely back. So why can't the Gemara say here that you're right, there's a hole there and you can put some of it back, but not all of it. Some of it is not going to, the share of kimitza, not all of it will go back, because some of it is going to be heaped on top, because it's impossible, as the Gemara says, but that's how Rashi Lemshat. So I don't understand exactly what the Gemara is asking you. I'm not sure, unless it's by a big pile, not a small pile. Unless what?
Natural earth, it's more, things fall back in. Here, it's a contained.
I think that's a fact, because new sand comes off the side, maybe. They don't say why. It just says, you can never get it right. And here we're saying maybe because maybe your reason, or maybe because of a small shear.
Maybe also because the particles of flour, very fine ground, the earth, you
Sand.
The earth, it now has like space, air space between the little granules. It takes up more room. That's why it doesn't fill back in. Hashem can hear me.
But it spreads out, when you make a hole, the sand spreads out a bit.
It becomes more.
And the sand all around it, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking out loud. That's maybe the flour is a finer texture, and it will go back.
Maybe I haven't seen anyone refer to that, so maybe that's what's shot. Okay, so the Gemara says, for example, you put it back into it was level, right? It was level in the first place. It was rounded off and everything leveled, and the. No, so Gemara says, so what's the problem? So then what's the problem? But keeping the other comments lay, this is all part of the question. Comments lay over leguma. When you took out the first kmitza, you made a little cavity. Is kimahadele gave the monica mahadele. You're putting it right back where you started. So what's the problem? So then we go back to the same question. As soon as you put it, what's the you do? A second keli, the first keli, according to B'Mseida, you tell me put it back. You're gonna ruin it. Says the Gemara, you don't put it back mamish in the epicenter there. You put it on the side, and then what happens? You give it a shake to level it out. Some of it maybe you put into the cavity, but some of it sits on top. In other words, you shake it till it becomes level. You shake it, it falls by itself and it levels out. It's as if a monkey put it back. In other words, if you want to make a kodesh, you have to put all the contents inside the keli. Here, it's very difficult to take the whole kmitza and put it right inside that cavity. So you put some of it in the cavity, some of it sits on top, and then give it a shake, and that everything should level out. So that's by itself. But Mela, it cannot become Kodesh. You have to be the one pouring everything inside the Keli. So that was Rab Amram's Teres. So therefore, you're saying here that's it's talking about a case where you could put it back, and it's not a problem, but you have to make sure that you put it back in the whatever it's called. And we're talking about in a case where the keli is full to the top, and therefore it doesn't become kaim. No, but if the keli wasn't full to the top, it was only halfway full. Big keli only halfway full. Then you tackle with your problem. I don't care, new keli, the old keli. When you put it back, you finish your mitzvah and it was done by Yisrael. You ruined it. Granted, we're talking about where the keli is mamish filled to the top, to the rim. So therefore, you have no. This is what happens. There's another answer Gemara could have given, very simple, and that is why by a behemoth. When it comes to a klei shodas to mekabel the blood, you have to. A kohen has one of the jobs is a kohen stands there, another kohen, and he's holding the keli. One kohen shechts, another kohen holds the keli. So he can't be sitting on the ground. Can't be sitting on the ground. So why don't you just say simply the keli is sitting on the first keli is sitting on the ground, and that's why you put it back in. It doesn't become kodesh. The second keli, obviously, is part of the process. There's a kohen standing there holding the second keli, and that's why we asked the question. And that's why we said when you put in the second keli, it becomes asa because the kohen is holding it, and that's why it's not a problem putting it back in the first sitting on the floor. Why don't you say that? Is that raya that even if it sits on the floor, it's still all right? Different than when it comes to by an animal. So you put it on the ground. The shmamna must be from here. We conclude that you can do mitzvah from a keli on the ground, and you can also put it back kodesh because that's what we're talking about, putting it back, and you can put it back kodesh on the ground as well. And that's why we have a question. So what's the chil? You put it in a second keli, you bring it back to the first one. You just finished the mitzvah, and that's why we had to give the answer. Or the other one that the keli is full to the top like Rab Amram. So he said to him, Rav Zeta said to him, you're getting involved in a big controversy. This question, if a clay shutters can be sitting on the ground, when it comes, remember, there's a few stages there. One is the chatchila putting the flour in, maybe kaddish the mincha, sitting on the ground. One is the kmitza from something sitting on the ground. And the third thing is putting the kmitza back into a keli that's sitting on the ground. Now, making it kodesh is a greater requirement than just doing the kmitza. We're more particular. Because you're making this thing itself a kodesh. So you want to say, but Pasha's a raya for me that just sitting on the ground is enough to make it kodesh and all that. I want you to know that it's a big controversy. What's the ma'isa? The Gemara, if you ask me, it's a little bit hard to understand. We'll see. The boy alone, because the boy, we asked this question. What's a Ravima? Tani Menachos Be'er Rav Chizda. Ravima went to learn the Masechta Menachos in the yeshiva of Rav Chizda. The Gemara stops. Avimai went to learn Yeshiva. Avimai Rav Chizda's Rebbe. Why would he go to his Talmud to learn a Gemara from him? How do you know Avimai was Rav Chizda's Rebbe? How do we know that? Avimai ben Rav Chizda. Tony, what Rav Chizda once said, "Kufi tovi boli mavimai." I got a lot of klep. He hit me with his two versions of Rashi. Whether he actually hit me with a stick many times because I forgot some of my learning, or he insulted me many times because I forgot my learning. What did I forget? Because the Hashmaita, it says that when you're selling the Nichsa Yisayim, you have to do something against the Yisayim. You have to sell it, so you want to make sure you get the best price for the Yisayim, so you have to announce it and declare it. So one place says 30 days, and one place says 60 days. How many days do you have to announce? It's a stira. So my Rebbe, Ravimai, said that there's a difference. If you declare it every single day, then 30 days is enough. If you do it only on Monday and Thursday, when the majority of the people are there for Kriyas HaTorah and for Bate Dinin, then you need 60 days. And I forgot. So he gave me klep for forgetting. I mean, that's a teacher. I could imagine the kind of bittul he had to have that he needed to go learn Masechta Menachos by this Talmud that he used to beat up. But 30 days, consecutive days, Lamed Yom 30 days. Sheni Chamishiv, only Monday and Thursdays, and Sheni Samach Yom 60 days. So the Gemara said, what happened here? Avimai Masechta Isaac. He forgot Masechta Menachos. It happens. Like Abai said in the Mizrachim, it's Hilchos Mashiach, so I guess he didn't apply himself much. He forgot Masechta Menachos. He's akale. He forgot Menachos. So he went to his student of Chizah to remind him the Gemara. Says the Gemara, if Rav Chizah was his Talmud, you go to your Talmud. Let him send the message to Rav Chizah, come to my house. I need you to teach me something. Savar Hachi, he thought, He thought that Mistayeh Milsa Trey, it's better if I go to him. Why? So Rashi is a fascinating thing. Rashi says, you know why it's better? Because the Gemara Megillah says, your guide to you Matzasi Tamin, when you heard of it. Now, normally you learn Pshat in the Gemara, there is, when you learn a Gemara, you learn a Sugi Chassidus, and you go once and twice, and if you don't understand it, you work harder. If you work really hard, you don't just read an English translation and then you get the whole Pshat Gemara, but you actually try to decipher the Gemara yourself, then you'll eventually get there. Rashi says, doesn't only mean the learning. The tircha of going, I don't know, schus or it's a tircha. You put an effort in. And that's not clear if the effort is the going, or the effort is the fact that a Rav has to humiliate himself to go to a Talmud to learn from the Talmud, which is humiliate. It's not just so much the walking, it's the whole mind. It's the mind. We're working in the mind. You meant about shatim. So maybe when pick yours as a Geilam Makayim Torah is that's part of your guide to Matzasa. If it's taken literally traveling, that's part of your guide to Matzasa. You have to go.
It's funny he went to the student who got punished for forgetting to remind him.
Exactly. That's all part of the humiliation. I gave you petch. For you to give me petch, I forgot Menachos. And the next part of the Gemara is I don't understand. Tell me if he says it there. The next part of the Gemara is as follows. As he's walking to Rav Chizda's place, probably met Rav Nachman. He met Rav Nachman. Amalei, so Nachman said, Keisat Kaiman.
As you do when you meet someone in the street.
Yeah. So how do you do kimitza? There was a keli on the ground. Amalei Mikliza from this keli. You kimitza. And Rashi and Tezabot explain that what meant to say is that you don't need to put oil on it to be moishech. If this keli was inside the ties of Beis Hamikdash, because that time obviously there's no Beis Hamikdash. If there would have been tied to Beis Hamikdash, the avoida mechan chosan. Just use this keli, automatically become Kodesh. Or it was made out of wood, and there's an opinion of machlekes whether you get wooden keli, so you can use that. Amalei, but Nachman took it literally. He pointed to a keli on the ground, said, like this keli you can use. Nachman said, well, you can be kaimitz from a keli sitting on the ground. Amalei, no, you can't. The magbile kain. I was talking about the keli. I thought you meant to know what kind of keli. So I was telling you, this keli you don't have to put oil in it, or this keli even is wood. But no, you can't. Sitting on the ground, no. It has to be picked up. So Rabbi Amnuna clearly holds it has to be picked up. What I find the Gemara difficult is we just said that he forgot Masechta Menachos. What's he pasking for Masechta Menachos? Why don't you go back to the Talmud first and learn it, and then come back to Rav Nachman? This is on the way going too. I don't understand. He's on the way going. He should have said, "Wait till come back to me in 6 months. I'll tell you." No, not that part. Yeah, but it's one thing to talk about a keli whether you need oil or whether wooden keli. It's Mishnah and Brisa members. But when he talks about the keli sitting on the ground, which is not mentioned in any Mishnah or any Brisa, we have to work out in the Gemara, as we'll soon see. The whole Gemara is going to work out. Can you use a keli sitting on the ground out? That's already a pulpul. That's Masechta Menachos. And that's what you forgot. If you remembered all that, then what did you forget? What, one page of Masechta Menachos he forgot? That's all. I mean, it sounds like he forgot all the sugyas. Anyway, at least it wasn't clear in his mind, so he should have. I don't know. Is there anything there? Amalei, the Magla couldn't have to pick it up. Keitzad Mikachin. So then he asked him, okay, so that's how you do kimitz the keli. What about Mikachin Menachos? What about after you do kimitz, you have to put it in the second keli? What about can you use this keli? Amalei Noshel Kliza. Again, he said use this keli. The same word. Same question, and that you could do on the karka. Again, I meant the kohen should pick it up. I'm talking about the state of the keli. Malay, so Rav Nachman said to Rav Avima, so the process needs 3 kohenim. You need 1 kohen to do the kmitza, 1 kohen to hold the first keli we're doing the kmitza from, and another kohen to hold the second keli we're going to put the kmitza back into, because it has to be suspended in the air. You can't use the left hand. Remember, only the right hand.
To hold the kli.
Even to hold the kli. Only in Yom Kippur we said that we found an instance where you use the left hand. The kohen gadol, he does all the avodas. You have no breda.
Later.
They have like different figures. Our Malay, so Rabbi Yuma said, what's the problem? We learned that a carbon tummy, for example, in Yuma has 13 kohenim working. What's wrong? The more the merrier. But Roivam had this melech. Anyway, we asked a question. So Armuna says it's in the air. That's a question. This is the rule. Kol ha-koim, it's a Mishnah. It says, Kol ha-koim, it's whoever does the kmitza, the nois and bekli. And we're talking about pickle. What stage? Every stage of the avodah. If you have in mind the wrong times, chutz zman, chutz l'makayim, it ruins the whole carbon. So Kol ha-koim, you do the kmitza, and then the nois and bekli. The second part of the year, and you put it in a keli. Ha-moile, the one who walks to the keli. Ba-makti, the one that places on his be'ech. It's 4 different kohenim. If you have in mind the wrong time, you know what. Now, the ilam might be like according to you, there's another kohen involved, the one who lifts the second keli. Because we're starting to talk here from the Kmitza and onwards. There's the Kmitza, but there's also another kohen, the one who lifts the keli. Why doesn't the Mishnah include that? I said, you can leave the keli on the floor. You don't need a kohen in between. The Gemara, like Tana, we learn, say that the Tana say that avodas nakat. The law say the kohen. He's not trying to tell you as many kohen. Trying to tell you if there's one kohen. If there's one kohen doing all the steps, this is what happens. The one kohen, he does the Kmitza. Then this one kohen puts it in the keli. Then there's one kohen take the same kohen can then take the keli, and we're not talking about the kohen holding it's a second kohen. If you true, there might be another kohen involved holding the keli, but we're talking about the single kohen. He has 4 opportunities to ruin the carbon. He does not have the opportunity of holding the keli up because he can't hold the left hand. So he can only do the kmitza. He can be the one putting the kmitza into the keli. He can then be the one taking the keli and walking with it to the mizbech. He can be the one taking the kmitza from that keli and putting it on the mizbech. So that will prove one way or another. So now they ask a similar question of Sheshes. So Avimai clearly holds it has to be in the air, not on the ground. However, that's Sheshes, what he feels. He said, let's compare a mincha, the kmitza of mincha, to, for example, to lechem apani, because it's very similar. It's like a mincha, and they also have kohenim who take away the bezichin where they put it onto the and the levay and all that, and they put it onto the levay and put it on the mizbeach, and that's like the kmitza. Very similar operation. So let's see what happens. My ovdin. So let's go see what happens by the shulchan. The shulchan, he lifted up in the air, or it could be sitting on the ground. About kohenim, there are 4 kohenim. They enter shnayim biyadam. 2 of them hold beis dorim. They bring in the new and take out old. 2 of them are holding the two rows of 6. With Shnai other bazich, and 2 of them are holding the 2 bazich that you put in there on each row 6. The 4 are coming towards them. 2 of them are taking away the old ones, little bazich, and 2 of them take away the 2 bazich. And so there's 4 kohenim. The ilu makbias also doesn't say anything about 2 kohenim standing there and lifting it from the ground. Is that we're removing the bazich, which is just like kmitza. They're both called askara. They're both like kmitza, and the din is still on the ground. So the same thing by mincha. The keli that you're doing the kmitza from can sit on the ground. The ilu might be the such like Tani. So the Gemara, Lava Ami, you just said, say that avodas knocker. We're only talking about the main avodas. So Hachiname, say that avodas knocker. Lifting the table is not from the main avodas, even though let's say you have to lift it, like Abba Vimai said, but that's not from the big avodas. So Gemara said, midom, it can't compare. There's not out to tell you how many kohen. It's telling you how one kohen every step of the way where he can ruin it through a machshava pigul. The Mishnah is telling you there are 4 kohenim. That means the Mishnah is not just telling you that, but the Mishnah is telling you the number of kohenim that are involved that you need for by the shul the lechem upon him. Is that there were no more than 4? But I lifting a table. Is that I have to lift a table? Sorry?
But the table is actually lifted above the ground. Here the keli is on the ground. Mamish.
Yeah, but the legs of the keli are on the ground. So the legs, it's like the keli sitting there. So if you take the legs away, the keli will fall down. So that's like imisa list in magbia. If you're right, then it should say that we're kind of involved in lifting keli shmam. No, came to me klish like the shmam is a good raya. So Gemara concludes that you could sit on the ground, not like Avimai. I guess he forgot Masasa Menachos, and therefore didn't remember lechem upon him. I don't know. There has to be something here. In what happened to Amnuna and Ramnachman. It must be in a special. If you can find something, I would love to hear it. Because otherwise, that's missing. Omar Rabba says, Rabba, now Rabba continues. We'll continue. Even though we just proved from Absheshes and said that it's in the ground, Rabba continues. Omar Rabba, Chitali, there's no question. You could do kmitza from a keli that's on the ground. There's 3 stages. Remember, the 3 times you use the keli. When you put the flour in it to make the mincha. Then you do the kmitza from the keli. That's number 2. And number 3, then you take the kmitza and you put it into a keli, and usually in a second keli, and then you bring it to the mizbech. 3 keli. Says another. There's no question. Kmitz mikli. If that keli that you need when you do the kmitza shalgabe karka, it could be on the ground. We just brought it right from the lechem upon. We take the bazichin off while the shulchan is sitting on the ground. So the kmitza can be done while the keli is on the ground. So okay, that I have. Number 2, the initial mincha, mikachim mincha, big kli. Also, is obvious to me that you're putting the flour into the keli that's on the ground, just like the lechem apanim. They brought in the lechem apanim, put it onto the shulchan while it's sitting on the ground. We don't find any with kohenim lifting the table. Mikachim mincha, same thing there. A question is, boy Rava, the last stage. You took that kmitza and you put it into a keli. We don't have that by lechem upon. You put into like because when they took the bezichin off, they went straight to the mizbeach. So we don't have that. So what happens here? By Rabbi Kiddush claim it's mai. Do we say mincha yafinen? We'll learn it from just like the beginning of a mincha. You sit on the ground and you put the flour and everything else. So to this step also can be sitting on the ground. Or maybe we learn from dam. Or we learn from dam. How the pasha then resolved it. What do you mean by dam? What do you know about dam? A kohen has to stand there and hold the keli. It can't be sitting on the ground. A kohen has to stand there and hold the keli when you to receive the blood. So the question is the keli after the kmitza. We learn from dam or from mincha. We say we learn from dam. Medam yafinlo. You learn from blood. That what? That maybe a kohen has to stand and hold it. Says the Gemara. The Rabbi say that the Rabbi say you learn from dam. But itma we learned. There's another din, and a din is as follows: if you took a kmitza and you divide it into kelim, after you did the kmitza, you separate into two separate kelim. Rav Nachman says ain't a kaddish; it's not kaddish, and the Rabbi says kaddish, and Rabbi says that it's kodesh. Now, if you're learning that the step after kmitza, you learn from dam. By dam, you have to stand and hold it. Something over here, you have to hold it. So you're learning from dam. By dam, you cannot split the dam into two kelim to do the zrikas. You have to have them all in one keli. So how come by kmitza you can split into two? So that means Rabbi hold you don't learn from dam. What's going on here? So learn from dam. That is no good. Says the Gemara, because you can't be mekadosh l'chatzoyim when it comes to dam. Because we're going to learn, as we'll soon talk about it. When you have the dam mitzvah, you have to spray it 7 times. The keli chatchila has to have the entire contents of blood that you're going to spray for 7 times. And you can't put 3 sprays here, enough blood for 3 here, enough blood for 4 in another keli. You can't split it. So how come by kmitza you could? Said, well, you're right. How the bay Rabbi changed his mind. And he said, Taka, what? Mahi. He changed his mind by kmitza and said you cannot split in half because you do learn from dam. You do learn from dam. Says the Gemara, the dam, you just said a fact. The dam you cannot split in half. Who said? Who said you can't have 3 sprays of blood here and 4 sprays of blood in the second keli? Why not? But Gemara now will give us that din. Let's say by pot aduma, so you have ashes and you have spring water. We have the Gemara will have whether you have to put the ashes in first and then the water afterwards, because some sukkah is mash in one way, one sukkah another way, or you first you put the water, then you put the ashes. But whatever it is, you put it all in, and kiddush pachas mechdei hazor b'klezeh, and and then what you do is you put in the hyssops there, and the 3 hyssops, then you dip it in and you sprinkle. So you have to have the entire contents enough that you can spray you can sprinkle all the times that you need to sprinkle. You have to sprinkle 7 times in the direction of the El Maid. You have to have in that keli all of that, enough to do it in the keli before you start the 7 times. So the Gemara says, if you did each one less than the keli, like kiddush is not kodesh. And it doesn't help afterwards to add more water or add more. It doesn't help because already when you're mekadosh in the keli, it has to be enough for all of it. So we boilers. Let me ask the question: B'dam mai? Okay, that's by for chatas. What about dam? By dam, for example, you have the blood of by para chatas, the sira chatas on Yom Kippur. You have to spray it 7 times towards the pareiches. We split the blood that comes out of the goat, the blood comes out of the parent to 2 kelim, where you have to have enough blood to do 7 times from 1 keli. Do we say it's halacha Moshe sin by paraduma? Don't compare what happens in Kippur to paraduma. Or yemahasa my time. No, maybe there's a reason. Nothing. That's all one. She's not. The pasuk. The pasuk. Says the pasuk. Vit taval b'mayim. It says in the pasuk you should dip into the water as if the entire contents are already there by the paraduma when you start. It says here, but tavel badam. It says over here in the pasuk. It doesn't say bidam. It says badam in the entire blood. So therefore, the same vart is here that you have to already have the entire blood in 1 keli before you start. By blood also you cannot separate because it says badam. So therefore, we know that's how we know by blood you cannot split it in half, and that was a discussion we had by kmitza, and Rabbi says that you're right. Kmitza learn from dam. You cannot do half a kmitza in 1 keli and half another keli. Oh, my Rabbi said, we actually learned this, but I said, it says, V'tov val, we learn that from, we already have Gemara's as well. It says, V'tov val, you should dip in, but must be, we don't want you to take your finger and take off the rims, the walls of the keli and the blood. It has to be V'tov val, you got to dip, it has to be in, inside the keli, it's proper as a fluid. And badam, sheyehei bedam, sheyet tefillah mi'ikar. From the outset, before you start, it already has to have enough contents there to finish the job. Min Adam. Then it says in the pasuk Min Adam. It says he's a Min Adam. Obviously Min Adam. We're talking about Adam. Why does it say Min Adam? Min Adam should be from the blood that we're talking about. What exactly does that mean? We'll talk about in a minute. The why you need both the dam because even though you have to dip in, but how much the content itself, the quantity doesn't matter. You can have it two kelim. Because this says badam. It says badam, the entire blood that has to be existing there. I would thought I feel a mass big. It says badam. Okay, you need entire contents, but maybe you can include that which is, sitting on the walls of the keli. Because you have to dip your finger in. And min hadam. What's min hadam? Should be in. What does that mean? What does the Braisa mean from the min adam, from the blood that we're talking about? Lemuti mai. What do you come to exclude? You cannot use after, let's say you have to spray 7 times. You sprayed once. You cannot use now for the second spray part of the blood that's still left on your finger. You have to wipe your finger and start again. That's mean. You cannot use any of the existing blood that from the previous sprinkles. This proves this supports Rabbi Elazar. Any leftover blood in your fingers is possible. You got to wipe it and start again. Your Talmidim said, we learned already also in Zvachim that this, if you spray the blood and this spray lands on the clothes of the kohen, he has to wash out that particular area, not the entire clothes, but only where it landed. But only if it has a potential to be sprayed. No, the blood hasn't been used yet. If the blood is already used and after you used it, some leftover blood and falls on your beged, you don't have to wash it out. So if he says if you were spraying, in spot of it, sprinkled onto your shirt, before you actually sprayed it, it landed on the shirt of the kohen. But no, this blood had a potential to be sprayed. But right before you sprayed it, it came running down on your shirt. Don't keep us. You have to wash you launder your shirt. Once you sprayed it and there's some blood left on your finger and it lands on your shirt, don't keep it. You don't have to wash it. My love, when is it a problem? Actually, Gomer has also when you finish all 7, which means that even if the blood that all the blood until you finish the job has the potential to be sprayed. Because remember, this din that you have to launder your clothes is only by blood that can still be used. So the that I've made that the blood left over from the first finger, the second finger, still has the potential to be reused and be sprayed from the parachus, and therefore. What do you tell me that after every finger you have to wipe your hands? Has also only when you finish. We see the leftovers on your fingers are still potential to be used. That's why, till the end of the 7th spray, if it falls on your shirt, you have to wash it. You have to launder it. No. After every finger, if before you started to. You're up to the 3rd time, but you start again. Every time you clean your finger in between. If you have blood on your finger and you didn't spray it yet and some of it falls on your shirt, you have to launder it. If you already sprayed and you still have some blood left obviously on your finger and then it falls on your shirt, you don't have to launder it because you have to wipe your finger between every single time. And after you spray it, it no longer has a potential to be reused because you're going to have to wipe it off.
Such a thin layer will dry pretty quickly. So.
Yeah, but you're standing right there. And before you clean your hand, a drop falls over here. Hazot on kibbutz, it needs to be washed every time. The machine is on kibbutz, but once you spray it and it's a little bit left on your finger and it falls on your shirt, you don't have to launder it. It says in the Goma and Melahaza, it says in the Mishnah. Goma and Melahaza is once you complete it, it sounds like all the sprays, is mekanech yad v'ushel pada. Then you wipe your finger on the pot itself, because before you burn it, you wipe your finger. Is gomar in legomar? It sounds like once you complete all 7, that's when you wipe your finger on the potter. So no, but you don't have to wipe your finger between each single spray. That means the shirayim of blood is kosher. Like gomar loy, if you didn't finish, you don't have to wipe it. Malay. So they answer him. The Rabbi said, "Gobar mekaneach yodei lo gobar mekaneach spoiler." Once you finish the whole job, you got to wipe your whole hand. But between each finger, all you have to do is wipe your finger itself. Is bishleim gobar mekaneach yodei gufs potter? You do the gufs potter. It says you have to burn the potter afterwards, so the potter still existing. Go over and you wipe your finger against the hide of the potter. If you every finger in between, it's boy. What do you mekanech? What do you mekanech? So Rashi here says, see from Rashi, Teshel argues that on top of the mountains where they did the potter, the aphid and all that, spraying it toward the Pesach Moed, on the bottom of the mountain was the actual potter, and they burnt it on the bottom. So what are you going to have? Every time you wipe a finger, you're going to go run down the mountain to wipe it. Every time you spray one finger, you got to run down the mountain and wipe your finger. So what a tircha. That's how Rashi learns here. In Zvachim, if you remember, Rashi learns the problem is that seems like Rashi there learns that the potter was done in exactly the same place. You can say it has to be done this way exactly. We do the eighth and all on top of the mountain. But if you're going to wipe your finger on the potter, some of the hairs of the potter will get mixed in, get stuck to your finger. And when we spray, there has to be exactly the mechatas has to be just mechatas and no other impurities. So that's why we don't want you to use the potter. So there's two opinions whether the potter, safe potter, was the same place as the mechatas or on the bottom of the mountain. And so what do you wipe your finger between? Abai asked the question. A minute ago, Abai said you don't wipe your finger. Now he accepted the Rav that you do wipe your finger, but how? Because he should have said then you do that. They use the keli itself. It says kipoidezov. The keli is called kipoidezov. So I call kipoide because it cleans your finger. Because they used to wipe it against the keli that he had the mechatas in. Did Ablaza say that? But the problem is, didn't we learn that Chavise Kohen Gadol? We learned that the Kohen Gadol, the Chavise, because what he brings in twice a day, he uses a shallow frying pan like a machvas. It's called Chavise. Half is done, half of the son is done in the morning, and half is done at night. And he said, "Okay." Rabbi Yochanan says, "Eina kedusha lechatzayin." Rabbi Yochanan says you cannot divide it in two kelim. You have to do everything in one keli. Mashenk and Ablaza says, "Betoich shekar lechatzayin." You bring them one shir and you divide that into two. So kedusha lechatzayin. You can also makdish what you can do in the morning in two kelim. No, you can do half of your sadon in one keli and a half of your sadon in another keli. There's no problem. So you hold that what? So you, before Rabbi Elazar said by dam you cannot split it, and here when it comes to Chavisi Kohen Gadol, he says you can split it. But if you're telling me that you learned from dam that you cannot split it, this because we learned from the whole Gemara Rabbi Elazar says by dam you cannot split. We learned from Paraduma and so on. So the Misa, if you're right, that you cannot split by dam, you cannot say 3 hazos on this keli and 4 this keli, then leila medam, learn Chavisim from dam. That you cannot split it. What's Rabbi Elazar saying here? Says the Gemara, and you're the one who says that dam you cannot split. What? It's 2 different dam, and here we're talking about a mincha. 2 different kabbanas, two ways of avodah. You don't compare the two. Well, there I was talking about comparing the Efer Chatas with the dam. That's already Amos and Kabbalah. Similar. Here's no similarity. So the Gemara, Ablaza said, mincha shecomes to behechel kshed. If you did a mincha and you did the commitzvah instead of the Ezras Yisrael, you did it inside the hechel itself. It's kosher. You know why? She came with sinu. We find by lechem apanim, besiluk bezichim. Where did you do that? In the hechel itself. So you see, we do compare. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? There it's mincha. We just said before, the shulchan is like, the lechem is like a mincha, and we're comparing the mincha of a kmitza. You can do it from a shulchan. You want to learn the chavise kohen gadol from dam of a carbon, it's totally different things. You can't compare the two. Mincha yalef, mincha medam lo yalef. Says the Gemara, mincha mi yalef, and you can tell me mincha you do learn out. The first thing Gemara said you do, because we just brought that you can do a kmitza inside. Now the Gemara, you have this sometimes. The Gemara sometimes it bothers faces. How can the Gemara go? First you have one shtel and then you change it completely. Sometimes that's the flow. But the Gemara is trying to work it out, tease it out. Now we're going to say you do learn minchas from each other. First you want to learn everything from each other. Now you tell me you want to even something similar. But Tanya we learned when it comes to the shulchan. They didn't just follow. By kmitza, if the shear goes missing right before the kmitza, it's possible. If after the kmitza the shear is missing, then the shiraim, the part of the shiraim is missing, it's a problem as well. So like this. Before you had a chance to remove the lechem hapani from the table, it's a week later. Nifris lachma, some of the bread broke off and now it's missing. Halechem pasul, the lechem is pasul. Why? It's just like a mincha that before you did the kmitza, before you took away the bezichin, it went missing. It's pasul. You can't do the mincha anymore. Pasul. The maked all of a sabir bezichin. They maked all of a bezichin. You can't proceed further. Possible. Oh, but what happened to Mishapirk? You already removed the position from the table. No, but you already did the kmitza. Nifris lachma, and the lechem broke off. It's just like by the mincha. If after you did the kmitza, something went missing, the shiraim are possible. You can't do shiraim. But the kmitza, you continue it. Over here also the same thing. You continue with the position, but you cannot even lechem upon him. Halechem possible. Oh, but but you can go ahead and be maktim position. So what's the problem? No problem. But so we are comparing minchas. But Rabbi Elazar is the problem. He came along and he said, like Pirka Mar, doesn't mean mamish, you took off lechem upon him. When was the time of taking over the after Chatzos? So if this happened after Chatzos, even though physically you did not remove the position, but it's potential to remove, it's after Chatzos it came the time to be mefarik. And even though the poil you did not take off the position, it's as if you already removed the position. It's kimisha perkadam, as if you already moved the position. So therefore, you continue with the job of the position putting on the mizbech, even though the bread broke at 1:30 before you remove the position. You still, it's as if it happened already after you remove the position. You bring the position on the mizbech. You just have bread you can't eat. But compare it to a mincha. What's the thing by a normal mincha? I don't care what time it is. If it went missing before you did the kmitza, that's it. It ruins the kmitza as well. You don't put it on the bech. Have a kmitza. If you're comparing mincha to mincha, comparing mincha to sholech mapanim, then why don't you say the same thing here? Who cares if it's what time it is? It's a fact. Either the kmitza went missing before the kmitza, went missing after the kmitza. Says the Gemara Holy Kasha. That is a difference between lechem mapanim and mincha. You know why? By lechem mapanim, even if you hold ein bereda, it's very clear what you can do the kmitza with. You're going to take the position off the table and put it on the mizbech. When it comes to flour offering, how do we know before you actually did the kmitza which flour is going to be part of the kmitza? We have no idea. If you take it and say yes, breda, let's say all along the kmitza, but behind that, you have no idea what will it be. So therefore, when it comes to the flour offering, we can't say it's as if you already did the kmitza. If Jory said to go, it's as if you did the kmitza and therefore continue, even though it went missing before. How do you know? Which part was the kmitza? It's not mavudar until it actually happens. Mashenki by Shulchan, even before it happened, as soon as it comes 12 o'clock, we already know where the kmitza is going to be. You're going to take the position. So it's already separated. So as if it already happened. Mincha lebadi bereda kaimitz a day. It wasn't clear yet what you're going to take out as a kaimitz. But habadi bereda kaimitz. But here it's clear already. The kibbutz shegis matter by the table, or the time came. Lefadik is command the prikadami, as if it already happened. Let's just finish. Elamata, if so, to have a kishadayim. So let's treat it, let's say by the table. Let's treat it like shadayim. Shechosher ben kmitza lahaktara that went missing after the kmitza before you put him mizbech. The eimaktin came mitzalein. We say that even there you shouldn't go ahead and bring the ketayos. Okay, but the fact is, even if you assume that, let's say, the position was already removed, so it's as if you did the kmitza, and then it went missing, there's a machlekes, whether it's only the sharaim now that you cannot eat, or even the kmitza itself. Don't go put it on mizbeach, because it's all one carbon, so machlekes whether you can continue or not. So Yimor answers, so by the shulchan, why can you go ahead with the position? When it says lav pluktininu, that's a machlekes. He holds like the view that says that you could go ahead and be maked, and that's why lechem upon him. It's as if it already happened, and you can go ahead and bring the position on the mizbeach. Tomorrow is Chodesh, so we'll start against 10 past.